Welcome to a new video where we delve into the intricate world of relationships and psychology. Today's topic is 6 signs of a covert narcissistic mother. Now, the term narcissism might ring a bell, but did you know there are 2 types? That's right, we have overt and covert narcissism. Overt narcissism, the more familiar type, is characterized by grandiosity, a sense of superiority, and persistent symptoms across different situations. It's the loud, boastful, and self-centered behavior that often springs to mind. On the other hand, covert narcissism is a little more elusive. It's less apparent, often hidden beneath layers of low self-esteem, depression, and anxiety. These individuals may not seem overtly narcissistic at all, which can make it tricky to identify, especially when the covert narcissist is someone as close as a mother. So before we start, let's unravel the unseen signs of a covert narcissistic mother to see which one may apply to you. The core traits of narcissistic personality disorder include 1. A constant need for praise and admiration. 2. Low capacity to experience and express empathy. 3. A pattern of grandiose behaviors and attitudes. Do these sound familiar? Comment below which one or all that apply to your situation. People with narcissistic personality disorder will persistently experience at least 5 of the following symptoms across different situations. Exaggerated sense of self-importance, often not based on facts. A need to belong and be understood by people or institutions that are perceived as superior or elite. A persistent preoccupation with fantasies of self-power, success, brilliance, beauty, or love. A constant sense of entitlement. A need to be admired and recognized as superior. An unwillingness or inability to recognize the feelings and needs of others. A tendency to use manipulation and exploitative tactics. Feelings of envy toward the success of others, or a belief that others are envious. And lastly, display superior or arrogant attitudes. Identifying the signs of a narcissistic mother may not be as straightforward as you think. Mothers look out for, educate, and protect their children, so the signs may not always be clear. There are factors that determine recognizable symptoms of narcissistic traits. The behaviors can change based on a child's age, cultural background, personal circumstances. In general, a narcissistic mother may have a hard time identifying or connecting to the needs of a young child, for example. They may tend to use manipulation or guilt-based tactics with older children or adults. Let's dive deeper in the 6 main indicators of a possible covert narcissistic mother. The first sign of a covert narcissistic mother is her tendency to use guilt trips. Now let's unpack this concept. What exactly is a guilt trip? Simply put, it's a form of emotional manipulation where someone makes another person feel guilty to control or gain an advantage over them. In the context of a covert narcissistic mother, guilt trips are often used as a powerful tool to maintain control over her children. She might use phrases like, "After all I've done for you, this is how you repay me," or "I sacrifice so much for you and you can't even do this simple thing for me." Sound familiar? These statements are designed to make the child feel indebted, obligated, or guilty, thus influencing their behavior to meet the mother's needs or desires. But how does this manipulation work? Well, the mother uses guilt trips to create an emotional debt. She constantly reminds her children of the sacrifices she has made for them, the effort she has put into raising them, or the hardship she has endured. This narrative is designed to make the child feel that they owe her something in return. And often that something is compliance with the mother's wishes, unquestioning obedience, or even emotional support that a child is not equipped to provide. Guilt trips can also be used to shift blame. If anything goes wrong, the covert narcissistic mother might say, "If you had listened to me, this wouldn't have happened," or "I'm upset because you always disregard my advice." This way, she absolves herself of any responsibility and places the burden of blame on her children. The focus is not on protection, it is about winning obedience. Another example is when the mother's first answer is always no, even for the smallest requests, like, "Can I have a drink of water?" And the mother replies, "No, you can wait for supper." Recognizing this form of manipulation is the first step towards understanding the complexity of a relationship with a covert narcissistic mother. It's important to remember that guilt is a normal feeling and it's okay to feel guilty when we've done something wrong. But when guilt is used as a weapon to control and manipulate, it becomes a harmful tool of emotional abuse. This manipulation is a powerful tool in the covert narcissist's arsenal, and it's important to recognize it. So, the next time you find yourself on a guilt trip, take a moment to reflect. Are you being manipulated? Understanding this first sign is a crucial step in navigating and healing from the effects of a relationship with a covert narcissistic mother. The second sign to watch out for is blame shifting. Now, what do we mean by blame shifting? Well, it's essentially a defense mechanism, a way of avoiding responsibility for one's actions, mistakes, or shortcomings by attributing them to someone else. It's like a game of hot potato with accountability. In the context of a covert narcissistic mother, blame shifting becomes a rather insidious tool. Picture this. You've just had a disagreement with your mother. Instead of addressing the issue at hand, she quickly diverts the focus, pointing the finger back at you. She may say things like, "You're too sensitive," or "You're misunderstanding me." Before you know it, you're the one apologizing, even though you're not the one who initiated the conflict. Blame shifting can also be subtler. A covert narcissistic mother may not outright blame you, but instead, she might insinuate that the fault lies with you. She may use phrases like, "If only you had done this differently," or "This wouldn't have happened if you hadn't." These remarks might seem innocuous, but they're actually her way of absolving herself of any wrongdoing. Why does a covert narcissistic mother employ this tactic? Well, it's all about maintaining a certain image. By shifting the blame onto you, she can preserve her self-perception of being flawless. It's a way for her to protect her ego and maintain her sense of superiority. But here's what you need to remember. You're not responsible for your mother's actions or her feelings. If she's unable or unwilling to take responsibility for her mistakes, that's on her, not you. It's important to recognize this pattern of behavior for what it is, a sign of covert narcissism. Remember, consistent blame shifting can be a sign of covert narcissism. The third sign is when a mother consistently prioritizes her needs over her child's. This is a scenario where the mother's desires, ambitions, and even her mundane whims consistently supersede the needs and well-being of her child. It's not about the occasional self-care or taking time to cater to personal interests. We all need that. It's about a continuous pattern where the mother's needs are always at the forefront, often at the cost of the child's emotional, psychological, and sometimes physical well-being. Imagine a child eagerly waiting to share an exciting school experience with their mother, but the mother dismisses it, absorbed in her own interests or concerns. Or a situation where a child's activities are constantly adjusted or even canceled to accommodate the mother's plans. These aren't just one-off instances, they become a recurrent pattern, a norm that the child learns to accept. This behavior is not just about neglect. It's about a mother using her position to meet her own needs first, without considering the potential harm or discomfort to her child. The child's needs, feelings, and experiences are overlooked or minimized, making the child feel less important, less valued. Such a mother may justify her actions by saying she's teaching her child to be independent or adaptable. But in reality, it's a way for her to maintain control, to ensure her needs are met first, to be the center of attention. It can be subtle and hard to identify, which makes it all the more damaging, as the child may grow up thinking this is normal. This is how love is supposed to be. This self-centeredness, this perpetual prioritizing of self over child, is a classic sign of covert narcissism. It's not about being a perfect parent, nobody is. But it's about recognizing that in a healthy parent-child relationship, the child's needs are paramount, not secondary. A mother who consistently prioritizes her needs over her child's is not just being selfish, she's exhibiting a clear sign of covert narcissism. The fourth sign is a mother who competes with her child. This can seem surprising, as we often think of a mother's role as one of support and encouragement. However, in the case of a covert narcissistic mother, this narrative can be significantly different. Imagine a child beaming with pride over an accomplishment, only to have their joy dampened by a mother who sees this success as a challenge to her own status. This is the reality for children of covert narcissistic mothers. Instead of celebrating her child's achievement, she may feel threatened by it, viewing it as competition. As a result, she may attempt to undermine the accomplishment or downplay the success. For instance, if a child excels in a school project, the mother might dismiss it, saying, "That's good, but I was always top of my class." Or if a child wins a sports event, she might retort, "Well, I was the fastest runner in my school." These responses serve to diminish the child's achievement and assert the mother's perceived superiority. This constant competition can be emotionally draining and damaging for the child. It can lead to feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt, as the child may start to believe that they will never be good enough, no matter how hard they try or how much they achieve. This can have long-term impacts on their self-esteem and confidence. The key thing to remember here is that a healthy parent-child relationship is not a competitive one. A mother should not see her child as a rival, but as an individual to be nurtured and supported. The child's successes should be a source of joy, not a threat. So when a mother competes with her child, consistently undermines their achievements or downplays their successes, it's not just unsupportive, it's unhealthy. It's not about a high standard or pushing a child to do better. It's about control, dominance, and maintaining a sense of superiority over the child. And that's a classic sign of covert narcissism. A mother's competition with her child is not healthy and could be a sign of covert narcissism. The fifth sign is a mother who sees her child as an extension of herself. This is a subtle but profound distortion of the parent-child relationship, and it's a common hallmark of covert narcissism. Imagine a mother viewing her child as an extension of her own identity, rather than a unique individual with their own thoughts, feelings, and desires. This is not about the healthy pride a parent feels when their child excels or mirrors their positive traits. This is a mother who is unable to distinguish between her own identity and her child's, asserting her thoughts, desires, and ambitions onto her child. This can manifest in various ways. Maybe the mother insists that her child shares her likes and dislikes, disregarding the child's unique preferences. Or she might live vicariously through her child, pushing them into activities or careers that fulfill her own unmet dreams. In more severe cases, a covert narcissistic mother might view her child as a mirror, reflecting back an idealized image of herself. This mother may be excessively involved in her child's life, scrutinizing every decision, every action with an unhealthy intensity. While it may seem like the mother is deeply invested in her child's life, the reality is far from it. What she's truly invested in is a self-serving narrative where her child is merely a supporting character, an extension of her own ego. This lack of respect for the child's individuality can have serious repercussions on their mental health. It can lead to feelings of guilt, shame, and a distorted sense of self. The child may struggle to develop a strong, independent identity, which is essential for their psychological well-being. So it's critical to recognize this sign for what it is, a distortion of the natural bond between a mother and her child. A child is an individual, not an extension of the parent. This is a key sign of covert narcissism. The final sign is a mother's excessive need for admiration. This isn't your everyday parental pride in a child's achievements, but rather an insatiable desire for validation that often overshadows the child's own emotional needs. A covert, narcissistic mother may be constantly seeking approval and admiration, not just from her peers, but crucially from her own child. Think of it as a never-ending thirst that can't be quenched, a hunger that's never satisfied. It's a craving for constant reassurance that she is outstanding, superior, or extraordinarily talented. This need for admiration is not rooted in the child's accomplishments, but rather in the mother's own sense of self-worth. In a healthy parent-child dynamic, admiration flows both ways. Parents admire their children's growth and achievements, while children look up to their parents as role models. However, in the case of a covert narcissistic mother, this balance is skewed. The mother's need for admiration takes precedence over the child's emotional needs. In this scenario, the child's role is reduced to serving as a constant source of validation and affirmation for the mother. The child's feelings, needs, and achievements become secondary, if not entirely overlooked. This can lead to feelings of neglect, as the child's emotional needs are consistently ignored in favor of the mother's need for admiration. It's important to note that everyone enjoys a bit of admiration from time to time, but when this need becomes excessive, overpowering, and comes at the expense of others' emotional well-being, it's a red flag. This unrelenting need for admiration can mask a deep-seated insecurity and a fragile sense of self, hallmarks of covert narcissism. So if a mother's need for admiration is excessive and persistent, overshadowing her child's emotional needs, it might be time to delve deeper. It may not just be a case of high self-esteem or strong self-confidence, but a possible sign of covert narcissism. An excessive need for admiration can be a clear indication of covert narcissism. These are the 6 signs of a covert narcissistic mother. We've discussed guilt trips, blame shifting, prioritizing self over child, competing with the child, seeing the child as an extension of oneself, and a persistent need for admiration. Remember, these are signs to look out for, not definitive proof of narcissism. Narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD, is a complex condition that can only be accurately diagnosed by a mental health professional. If you think you're dealing with a covert narcissistic mother, it's crucial to seek professional help. Don't shoulder this burden alone. There's a wealth of support and resources available to help you navigate this challenging situation. We hope this video has been informative. Which strategies will you work on first to handle these situations? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more insightful videos on narcissism and other related topics. Thank you for watching.